All right, my name's Ron Carrico, and today I'm talking to Jack Stanill, former Navy Marine pilot, and just ask you some questions. And what year were you born?
1946.
And where are you from?
I was born and raised in northern Utah, born in Brigham City. My father at the time was a career Army officer, so we moved around.
You're gonna talk louder. If you can, otherwise I'll just get closer. I'm gonna be right in your lap otherwise. So your father was an Army officer?
He was, started out in the Army Air Corps as a sergeant pilot. Went to Europe, flying out of England, flying the P-40. Later transitioned to the P-51 Mustang.
Where did you fly the P-40?
The Thunderbolt into Germany.
The P-47s?
P-47.
Yeah, the Jug, right.
Right.
Yeah, okay. So he was advancing along the line.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever meet any of his friends?
No. I was born in '46 after he came home.
Yeah.
And my grandfather had a cattle ranch up in northern Utah. And we went to the ranch. He went back in to the Army as an artillery officer because at the time they were transitioning to an all-officer Air Force.
So he was a sergeant pilot flying P-47s.
Exactly.
I didn't know they did that.
P-40s, I think. It was a Thunderbolt, right?
Thunderbolt, P-47. P-40 is a Tomahawk.
Tomahawk.
So it was right after the war that he must have married your mom.
Yep. She was an Army nurse, outranked him. She was a lieutenant, he was a sergeant, so they had to sneak around. They couldn't be seen.
Well, it's too late to complain now.
That's right.
So, why did you choose the Marines?
I got drafted my senior year in college. So I went to my local draft board and said, this is May, I'm due to graduate in June. Is there anything you can do to delay this so I can graduate? And they said, no. You've got your draft notice. You have to report for duty, whatever it was, May 15th. So I went down to the Air Force recruiter and they'd say, well, yeah, but we got a 2-year waiting list. Went to the Navy recruiter and they said, no, I'm sorry, we're looking at 1.5 years before we can induct you. Went to the Marine recorder and he says, no problem, we'll sign you up as of the day before yesterday when you got your draft note. That's a good deal. So
you had to go to officer training somewhere. Where'd you do that?
Quantico, Virginia.
Okay. So I know a lot of the Navy officers after they graduate are given the choice of Navy or Marines.
They are.
But you were just mainlined to the Marines right away.
Exactly.
What year did you graduate from pilot training?
1971.
Okay, and so you went right to the F-4?
Went through pilot training, went through the RAG at Yuma, Arizona. First duty squadron was VMFA 235 in Kaneohe, Hawaii.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Any complaints about that?
They had, by that time, pulled all the Marines pretty much out of Vietnam. The Air Corps went back to Iwakuni, Japan. So they had a quota for guys rotating through Iwakuni. And I said, I was a young, happy bachelor. And so, I'll go to Japan for a year. That's not a bad deal. And landed in Iwakuni on an Air Force transport and all kinds of things going on in Iwakuni.
This would have been, what, made or late 72?
72, May of 72. I think.
Okay. So how long was Marine pilot training?
How long was it? Same, we went through the same schools the Navy did.
Okay, so a year or so.
Yeah, the only, I think it was total 13 months.
Okay, but then transitioning to the F-4, that was another 4 or 5 months, right?
Yeah, actually about 3 months.
Okay.
Flew in training command, flew the T2, the TA4. My first introduction to the F-4 was in Yuma, Arizona.
Well, stop right there for a second. Okay, so you go from flying to TA4, which is the scooter, hot rod little
Right.
thing, and now you fly to something with mega horsepower. What do you think of that?
The scooter was so much fun and so quick. When the F-4 was kind of a beast. You flew it.
Yeah.
It was like.
Did you ever fly it clean?
Yes. Yeah. Got it. Made a speed run off the coast of Hawaii one time. Got it up to. I think the airplane had been test flown at 2.3 Mach. I got it to 2.1 and thought the airplane was going to come apart. Did I?
Yeah.
I had 356 combat missions.
So you were there.
13 months.
Yeah. Where were you flying out of?
I started in Da Nang when they started to wind the war down. The second tent offensive started, and they put us into a concrete runway in the middle of Thailand called Nam Phong. It was about 50 clicks south of Udorn, where the Air Force Base was. And we had 12,000 feet of concrete runway and nothing else. Lived in tents, ate sea rations. Were supposedly real Marines back then.
Yeah, well, the Marines really know how to treat their people, that's for sure. Being in the Air Force, when you went to a Navy base, it was like, oh God.
I know.
You check in at the BOQ and they hand you here's your pillow and here's your blankets, you know. What?
I remember walking into the officers club at Udorn and sitting down, and they had all kinds of things. They had ice, they had air conditioning, they had showers.
Go figure.
And sitting there for a while, and I think it was on my third or fourth beer, and you guys notice something that smells around here? Kind of funny. I said, yeah, it's you. I think the last bath I'd had was about a week ago.
Yeah.
But the Corps is unique. They do an awful lot with not very much. Always have that. I remember when we were in Da Nang before we moved over to Thailand. Da Nang had two parallel 12,000-foot runways. And on one side, the Navy and the Marine Corps was on one side, and on the other side of the field was the Air Force and the Army detachment they had there. And at 10 o'clock for the morning launch, 10 o'clock in the evening for the morning launch, the Air Force airplanes were all up, all ready to fight and fly. At 10:05, there were probably 100 Marines going across the runway to steal parts.
Say that again? I missed that.
When the Air Force shut their maintenance down at 10 o'clock at night, all their airplanes were up, spit shined and ready to go. And at 10:05, there were 200 Marines going across the runway in the dark to steal parts.
Steel parts.
Steel parts.
Oh, jeez.
True story.
Yeah.
The airplanes were parked in concrete overlaid revetments. And I remember taxiing out of the revetment. We pre-flighted the airplane inside the revetment. Started the engines, taxied out, and I get this panic stop from my plane captain. So I jumped on the brakes, and he called the tug over, and we shut down, they pushed us back in. I said, what the hell's the matter? And he said, look at the fuselage. And I looked back there, and there were Air Force markings, it said US, AF, whatever it was, on the side of the airplane. And painted some kind of goofy color with camouflage or something. It was just one panel, but you could tell it didn't belong to the rest of the airplane.
Wrong airplane.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like the pre-flight wasn't that good that time.
It's a little dark in there.
Yeah.
Well, so the mission, so you were in Vietnam, when to when?
Oh boy, let's see, April of '72 through May of '73.
So
13 months total.
So there was a pause in the bombing of the North for a
Right.
while, but most of your missions were in the South, though, right?
It was a lot to Laos. We diplomatically couldn't go into Cambodia, but the PDJ in Laos, I think I went there every day for 3 months. Just low-level road recce's and find something and drop a bomb on it.
So road recce, single ship or two ship?
2 ships. We always flew.
So you guys call it a ship, you don't call it a section then?
No. No. We used to call the formation a loose deuce.
Yeah. Air Force, that's a 4-ship.
Yes.
So then that means you must have got out about 75, 76.
Got out totally in '75, yes.
So when the airlines were starting to hire again.
Yeah, but they wanted transport guys.
Really?
Yeah, they wanted 4-engine time. Most of the airlines, if you were a fighter pilot, they thought you were going to go jerking the airplane around all over the sky, which was, pretty ridiculous. Usually the guys in the flight class, when we graduated, we got a choice based on class ranking on what airplane or what pipeline you'd follow from there. You go to transports or helicopters or attack or fighter airplanes. So.
Do you know what the difference was?
I'm sorry?
The difference, but who got transports and who got fighters?
No.
Who can fly formation?
Well, yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And I asked people that for years, and nobody ever gave me a straight answer until finally I talked to somebody who was an instructor and said, that's where it is right there. And now the Navy splits it right there. After formation training, transports or fighters. It's
Yeah,
that simple.
really?
If you can't fly, and I had a guy here one day in the museum who was a E-2 pilot, dressed in his uniform, and I was giving him a tour. And I said, but he had worked at some museum. He'd flown a bunch of different fighters. And I said, why you come around a fighter pilot? He said, can't formate.
Can't format.
No, but that is it's an interesting way to do it. I mean, obviously it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And in wars where they've tried to take transport pilots and make them into fighter pilots, it just generally doesn't work.
No, it's too gentle. Everything's, with a fighter, it's boom, snap turns and things.
Coming out of Hawaii one time. Let's see, the guy was. Anyway, after he took off, it wasn't good either. So you flew the F-4 B and J then, is that right?
A little time, less than 100 hours to be. The rest of it was all in the J.
So why would the improved radar do any good for what you were doing?
Well, you have to. It really didn't. And the way I look at it now, going back in history, the F-4 was actually bid and developed under contract with McDonnell Douglas as a fleet defense weapon. So the mission for the F-4 back in those days was to take the airplane and kill a bunch of bear bombers that were coming after the fleet. And they built the big radar that picked the bears out, or picked up the bears at 100 miles, and
Yeah, I think you could go up to 200 miles.
yeah, 200, whatever it was. And then, you know, the philosophy was you'd shoot Sparrow missiles at them, radar guided, break the turn, come around behind whoever was left and hose them down on the sidewinders. Heat seeker.
Fox 1, Fox 2.
2, exactly. So
There was a Fox 3 too.
not we didn't. Well, the gun.
Well, the Fox 3 was the nuclear weapon. If they were,
Did you ever carry a nuke?
Oh yeah, well we carried nuke bombs. We never carried them, but we sat alert with them. That's what I did in Germany. We sat alert all the time. I mean,
But you never got airborne with one.
no, we taxied with them once. That was weird enough.
That's-
Well, yeah, it was because they'd have these big alerts and or eyes, and in the middle of frickin' winter in Germany, it's miserable.
yeah.
And you'd be out there in these icy taxiways, taxiing around with a fucking nuclear bomb hanging on the bottom of the thing. I think we only did it once.
2,000-pound bomb.
There's different ones. The B-43 was about 2,000, and B-57 I think was about 1,000 pounds or so, something like that. I mean, they make a pretty big hole in the sky.
Yeah, yeah.
And we had to digress for a minute. There were so many weird things about it. All single ship. And if there was a launch, the message was called a Firehorse 1 Alpha. And if that came over the HF radio, then they would, well, if there was alert, we'd run to the ops office, right? And then the backseaters would run out the airplane and fire up the INS and get ready to go. I mean, the airplanes are pretty well cocked anyway. And then the front seater had a little thing like this, and a little blue thing you'd tear open in, and had a bunch of letters and characters, And so if the Firehorse 1 Alpha message would match what you had, it was a go. And so you had a particular line, a target, usually an airfield, small city, road intersection, things like that you were supposed to go to. So you'd go out there and fly your route at 420 and then pop up to 540 on the run in. And usually the delivery was what they call a LAD, pull up 45 degrees. The bomb would come off, the parachute would open up, and you could pull back down to the deck and get the hell out of there, Well, one time we did that on practice, and, and the bomb dropped, and we rolled, and the bomb was still there. The parachute hadn't opened up. I'm looking up, oh, man, this can't be good.
Jesus.
And so, you just pull down tighter like that and get out of the way. And then the range officer said, wow, I landed it unbelievable at 12 o'clock.
If we ever had hung ordnance, which occasionally happened with Mark 82, I forget the nomenclature. 500-pound bomb, if you had one that didn't come off, you didn't want to come back and land with it, obviously, so you try to pickle it off again. If that didn't work, you got speed up in a dive at 500 knots, you pull up and hit the bomb release button again, which was the nose wheel steering button on the top of the stick.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
So you'd hit the bomb release and throw it up into North Vietnam, somewhere. Have a nice day, boys.
Sorry, didn't mean you any harm. It's kind of funny, that Biden doesn't want a 2,000-pound bomb sent to the Israelis, and people are, oh, that should be okay. Really? It's damage a 2,000-pound bomb does? Good grief.
Yeah.
500-pounder is pretty good.
So okay, now when you flew, I mean you flew obviously 2 or 3 times a day sometimes.
Yes.
And so the missions were out, back, hit something, come back, refuel, and cock the airplane again.
Come in, and when we were in Da Nang, the standard procedure was to land, touchdown, pop the drag chute, taxi into the refueling revetment. They would reload or rearm you while they were refueling, and also put a new drag chute and tail the airplane. They would turn us in 20 minutes. 500, no.
Did you ever load the drag chute yourself?
I'm sorry?
Did you ever load the drag chute yourself?
No.
We always did that on cross country. Just jam it in there and close the door.
Yeah.
It worked.
Yeah.
It didn't have to be all neat, just jam it in.
It generally popped.
So now, so you would arm with pretty much the same load every day, 500 pounders?
Pretty much, yeah. You know, we were kind of the close air specialists in northern South Vietnam. If anybody had troops in contact.
It would be what they call route pack something?
Route Pack 1.
Route pack 1, okay.
The
So now the guys on the ground at that time, let's call them the bad guys, did they have service airmen, SAMs?
yes,
They did.
yeah. Sam's and remember Jane Fonda?
Yeah.
Jane Fonda in the interview she had on the 4-barrel anti-aircraft gun, 20 millimeter.
Yeah, she was an idiot. Yeah.
Yeah. Always wanted to meet her.
Me too, probably for a different reason though. Because
And,
we used to watch that film Barbarella all the time.
Oh, Barbara, yeah.
yeah, that was the high point of her life.
Well, I don't know. She's obviously changed her mind. I think I read someplace all the money she made on those videos, exercise videos, all went to disabled veterans. She gave it all away.
I've heard the same thing and had a friend that checked it out, and it's bullshit.
Okay. Okay, well, at any rate. So, what's a typical mission?
Typical was a 4 a.m. brief. We would get a frag over the teletype from wherever it came from. Johnson and McNamara figured out what targets they wanted to hit for the day.
They were that specific, but you were more tactical. You weren't strategic at all.
Mostly, well, 50-50. Sometimes specific targets. Most of the time it was just Route Pack 1, you know, down in the weeds, trying to see what you could see. Worked a lot with Cubby FACs, the little
Covey?
Cubby was one FAC.
Oh, those are call signs. Yeah.
Yeah,
Guys in A1s. Or not A1s, but
L19s.
L19s, yeah.
And stuff. Those guys had brass balls. Of course, the North Vietnamese weren't dummies. If they could see or hear an airplane up there, you know, they kept pretty quiet because they made some noise or got into a firefight. Next thing is, you know, a couple F-4s hovering oversized waiting for white smokes.
So
Typical.
you're supporting Marines more than anybody else then?
No, the grunts had basically gotten out of town.
Say again?
The grunts went back aboard the ships in early '72, and we were supporting the South Vietnamese Army with coordinators, FAC coordinators in the L19s.
So the FAC coordinators were Vietnamese?
No, they were Americans. We had a typical mission was to take off everybody that was working in northern southern Vietnam was controlled by a Navy destroyer off the coast his call sign was Red Crown. So
It was what?
Red Crown.
Red Crown. Okay, I've heard that before, yeah.
You'd take
I
off.
think Red Crown controlled the search and rescue also.
They controlled what?
Search and rescue.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it was a lot of electronics in one little boat. But you'd take off, switch tactical, get a hold of Red Crown. He'd give you a rendezvous point. Backseater trying to figure out where the hell we were and where they wanted us to go. And
But you guys had INS, didn't you?
no,
You didn't have INS?
well we did, but it never worked. You go into
Every 45 minutes it worked.
every
For the Air Force, at least every 45 minutes it was good.
if you had the same one we did, it would precess so bad that it would show you over, Honolulu rather than where you really were.
Yeah, ours wasn't that bad, but I'm sure it had to do with maintenance. I know the Navy, a lot of the problems they had with missiles and things like that had a lot to do with landing on carriers. And if you trained with it, well, hopefully you didn't land like Navy guys do.
You mean thump it?
Yeah.
No, that's the way Navy and Marine pilots are trained to fly. You don't come aboard a boat, you put it aboard the boat.
I know, but I mean, but a Marine pilot, you don't have to do that. If you're landing on a runway.
We
To change too many
we would
tires.
alternate detachments aboard. The ship that was offshore when I was there was the America. So we would have 2 to 4 Marine crews and airplanes aboard the boat.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we flew with them all the time.
So you have a lot of carrier landings then?
Yeah, few.
How many?
Oh, what was it? 73 traps, something like that.
How about night?
About half of that.
What-
The Navy always keeps 2 airplanes.
Flying cap.
Yeah, combat air patrols above the boat,
Yeah.
and Marines get the 2 a.m. to 4 o'clock a.m. launch.
Once again, Top Gun pilots that I interviewed, he said he had 99 night traps.
I can believe that.
And they said, well, you get one more, you get that Centurion patch you can put in uniform. He says, never mind.
That's right.
Not worth the patch.
No.
No, coming aboard at night is interesting.
Think about the guy in the back seat.
It's even more interesting for him. He's up there. How we doing?
Yeah.
So did you fly with a formed crew, same guys all the time?
Same RO, yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, same RO. It turned out pretty well because you knew what he was thinking before he knew what he was thinking. So
Yeah. Who
it,
was it? Do you remember?
I don't. Rask, I think his name was.
You ever seen him again?
No, he was killed in a traffic accident, I think.
That
A couple
sucks.
years after he got back.
After flying with you for
He,
that guy didn't kill me with the son of a bitch in the pickup truck, did he?
no, good guys. We had one guy. He was played defensive tackle for Texas A&M, and the back seat was comfortable, except for Yancey. Yancey was 270, 6'4",
Good
6'5". I used to tell him, if we have to go and you have to get out, that seat probably is not going to get you out. And he said, "You call me fat boy?"
Yeah.
So how much time did you end up with an F-4 altogether?
I really don't know. Total career-wise, with the airlines and the rest of it, 21,000 hours, somewhere north of that, I think.
Yeah.
Didn't we do that one time, sitting over my house?
I think we did, yeah.
Go
Yeah.
through logbooks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have no regrets. Probably killed some people I shouldn't have killed. Enemy people, not our own. But
So what was the typical target then? So if you had 350 some actual combat missions in Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, I'm always there was Cambodia was on you weren't supposed to drop bombs on, right?
no, Cambodia we weren't supposed to go into for some political reason. Laos, the PDJ, do you remember the plane décharge?
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah, a lot of trucks parked underneath trees, along Highway 1.
You get in touch with the FAC. You're given a frequency, a call effect. He calls you to a position. You figure out where it is.
Right.
And then he identifies the target you're going to be hitting?
Yeah, he would say, okay, fax in, pull the nose over, find the whatever it was, truck park, tanks, people, whatever,
Did he mark it with smoke?
and marked it with a Willie Pete rocket.
Well, yeah, okay.
And the Vietnamese got pretty clever in that they would see the rocket hit and they would pull a pin on another charge that they had and throw it out there. And you're up there, you got, you know, two targets. You got a white one over here and a white one over there. So then they started changing colors on the markers, so that you could say fax in, fax off, smoke, and say I got a red smoke at 2 o'clock. That's your target. Go, and he'd give you a correction off the rocket, because a lot of times he was getting hammered pretty well.
So correction is meaning north 50 yards or something?
20 meters north of that's your target. Target is a bunker, a truck, a park, or a tank, or whatever. And you'd set up an orbit, lead would roll in, a dash 2 would come around another quarter through the circle.
Good.
And follow him in, come off the target, and most of the time you get some kind of trace or reaction from him.
So we're using, how much did you use the gun?
We didn't have a gun.
Oh, you didn't?
We didn't have an internal gun.
Oh, I know, but I thought you had the strap
We
on.
had a pod that nobody ever bothered to get one bolt on the
The
airplane.
Vulcan, yeah.
Couldn't hit anything with it, you know. But you had a better chance of shooting the nose off the airplane than you did hit a target with it.
Huh. Yeah, we're pretty good on our airplane. I mean, sometimes it'd be off a little.
That was a beast, the F-14.
Did you fly it?
No, flew against it a couple times.
Oh, you did some air-to-air combat, huh?
Yeah, out in the Whiskey 291 area.
Oh, yeah, right.
And
Well, how'd they happen to that happen? Was that a scheduled event?
it was the precursor to Top Gun, where
Well-
in the Whiskey 291 area, Cubic Corporation developed the air combat maneuver
Right,
and
yeah,
tracing system. So they were testing that, and I just happened to be out with a new guy one day, and we were going to fly along the beach underneath the radar and look at the girls. And then we were out there 10,000 feet just kind of looking around, and here goes this F-14. Fight's on.
Boom, baby. Boom.
Pulled the nose up, came over the top, and he just kind of hovered there for a minute, and we did one of these numbers, and I got him. You know, I got him. And felt like the wings were going to come off to get inside him, and he just, boom, bam, you're dead.
Wow. It
But,
was
you know,
terrible.
he was,
Oh,
had the wings swept when he came down, when he started to turn up and the G-load, his wings start traveling forward. I couldn't believe that.
yeah.
I mean, it was just boom. It was
Yeah, one of the top, I've interviewed, I think, 3 Top Gun guys, and one of the guys said he was really surprised how tough that an F-14 was to fly.
Yeah.
And we're talking, one of the guys that
That was a good times. No rules. You know, first guy got back to the ready room, won the fight.
won the lies, yeah, told the most lies.
That's right.
Yeah, so I'm talking to this one guy, and he was in the killer flight for Yamamoto.
No kidding.
Yes.
Yeah, his name was Busby, bless his nest. And, you know, they were 16 airplanes, but only 4, maybe 6, went after Yamamoto.
Yeah.
Yamamoto was the on-time admiral, so if he said he was going to be someplace, he was there at that time. So they flew offshore, P-38s, right down on the deck, and then, or in the waves, and then they turned in, and when they got turned inland, where he was supposed to be, they looked up, there it was.
Yeah.
2 zeros and 2 Bettys. So they pulled up, and
Hit the zeros first, I think.
well, I can't remember exactly, but the guy named Lanfear was the guy that claimed to have gotten Yamamoto. And he said, and this never made sense to me when I read about it, the Betty, of course, they see him. So what's the Betty do? He lowers the nose and he's making, as fast as he can to get down to the deck.
Yeah.
So Lanfear says first he took out a zero and then he turned hard around like this and then came by on his wing, basically, on a 90 degree after turn. That's bullshit.
Yeah, you can't turn
You can't,
away.
the guy would be gone.
Yeah, you can't
So-
turn away from it.
He argued there would be bullet holes in the side. Well, when they found the airplane years later, the bullet holes were in the back. And so another guy, Olson, I think his name is in the display case, is the guy that actually got him. Well, Lanfear, when they were landing back at Guadalcanal, he announced, he said, I got the bastard. Well, they didn't want anybody to say anything. It was super secret. They didn't want the Japanese to realize we'd figured out what they were talking about in their
Yeah.
messages.
Right.
Breaking the codes.
Yeah, so, but then the other guy, well, who knows. But Busby said he was in the flight and he got a shot at the other Betty. And then when he got back, one of his tanks didn't feed, so he had to land along the way. They had probably an island out there someplace, or he told me, I don't know what it was. But he said by the time he said he had to buzz the runway to get people off the runway they're working on, got some fuel, and he landed about an hour and a half. He said by then, all the lies had been told.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder whatever. I'm sure all those guys are dead now.
That's the old aviation fighter image. The right hand always wins.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Well, there were Marine pilots in Top Gun, but maybe by the time you got out, it was too late.
Yeah, I had had enough of the Marine Corps. The services were in the process of changing, where they had long hair, they had handlebar mustaches, wore bell-bottom pants off duty, and the 70s hippies things. Well, the Marine Corps went exactly the opposite. They tightened the haircut standards, and in retrospect, they were right. But when you're 21 years old and got a rock hard dick that long, and a little hippie girl doesn't want anything to do with you because you got a bad haircut, it's just.
Well, you were in Vietnam, though. No one gave a damn about over there. Everybody was doing whatever they wanted to do. Too damn busy.
Not the Marine Corps.
Really?
Yeah. You got busted as much in Saturday night for having long hair as you did being drunk. And not one long hair, but one long hair.
Yeah. Well, I remember I had a secretary one time. She had been a Marine, and her husband was a retired lieutenant commander, I think. And so I was asking, I said, why is this, why are there, because we go down to MCRD and see all the kids marching around. I said, why are those instructors so mean, to everybody? Because they're not in other military. He said, because the Marines are trained to be, somebody says, do it now.
Yeah.
Exactly that. There's no response. And they're the head, they're the point of the spear.
Yeah.
And you guys were just one of the guys helping out the point of the spear.
For a long, long time, I was kind of bitter, in a way that. Then I got thinking about it. The older I get, they were absolutely right in what they did.
Yeah. Well, it works for the Marines all these years.
Yeah.
What? So tell me about it. You must have done some rescue missions.
Rescue.
Guys on the ground. You must have done a lot of those.
Flying caps for those, yeah.
Yeah. What'd you do? How'd that work?
Identifying where the guy was the biggest challenge, and we were, up high. Down below would be an L-19. Then the guys that were going to.
When you say up high, how high?
10,000 feet. And then the guys are going to actually do the work, where the Jolly Greens or, Huey or whatever the hell they had out there. And everybody was so tuned in to talk or listen to the rescue commander talk to the guy on the ground. And they were handheld UHF radios, and it was just calm. And they'd say, "Are you ready to come out?" And he says, "No, give me a little bit. I think I got people on the other side of this hill." "Okay, let me know. Can you see these guys?" "No, not yet, but I know they're there." Kind of stuff. It a lot of times really got spooky. And a couple times, the Hueys were firing rockets and machine guns over this guy's head when he was running like a son of a bitch to dive in the side door of the chopper.
Yeah.
And we got a couple out, lost a couple. But when I say we, we're doing this.
So, the procedure we had off of Red Crown, there's usually an HC-130 flying around somewhere.
Somewhere.
Yeah, and that's what I flew for a long time, the HC-130.
Yeah.
And so what we would do was, and I did some red flag exercises, and the project was to get a helicopter reasonably close and then have them sit down someplace.
And have the guy run like hell for the chopper.
Well, no, maybe 10 to 15 miles away, and so you could clear the area.
Yeah.
Theoretically, that's what you guys were doing. So you would get called in by the FAC.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then, but how many passes could you make?
Depends on how you were loaded. Sometimes it'd be a light load because you knew you were going to be there for a while. You didn't want you cycling in and off the tanker any more than you had to.
Well, you did use a tanker then.
Oh yeah, AC-130s, those drogues
Yeah, right.
on the wingtips.
Yeah.
Air Force had it nice. Just pull up behind the KC-135 and the boom came boom, and you had a sandwich and
Yeah.
beer and went to.
Yeah, sure.
trying
But
to hit-
you're going into it.
And
In
the
the
probe in Navy Marine airplanes, the tip of the probe actually sits behind the pilot. So you know where it's going to be by doing this, okay? And then the backseater tucks you into it.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
And the hose is doing this off the wingtip, and every once in a while you get plugged in, they start pumping fuel, and you connect and break away, and that damn basket, you come down and pound on the back canopy, just scare the living shit out of you.
Yeah.
That's funny. I flew the F-4 down, and it was easy to just fly.
Yeah.
Funk.
Funk.
Just sit there and fly along.
And you're looking at the guy that's doing the gas. I mean, he's sitting right there.
Well, I couldn't see him from the back. From the front, you could see him, and they also had all these lights, which I never understood. In fact, most of the guys I flew, they, really, what's the lights? But I don't know what they mean.
You're the second guy I've heard that. I think they were called lead-in lights or something.
Yeah, something like that. They were green and yellow and red or whatever. I couldn't see them. And nobody bothered. They could just fly it under the boom. They'd plug you in. But the airplane get heavier. You have to change your trim quite a bit because you can put on. I think I had 10,000 pounds for a long time.
Same thing. The airlines. I went from the 727-100 to the 200 to the 747-100, 200, and 300, and the DC-8. I love the DC-8. The DC-8 was just a big, heavy, Boeing airplanes' skins are about that thick. DC-8s are like this. McDonnell Douglas builds trucks. They don't build airplanes.
I never knew that.
Yeah, it's really heavy.
Yeah, I didn't fly for the airlines, so I don't know a hell of a lot about it. So you finished up flying a 747.
Yeah. Love that airplane. You can fly with 2 fingers. So responsive for as big as it was.
And it has the Coke bottle design.
Kind of.
Well, it's because it's, someone explained, we had an engineer that worked on it, and I was asking about that. And he said, no, but the way the thing is designed with the big thing up on top, it said it turns out to be the same thing aerodynamically.
It's a lifting body.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Yeah.
So you got any questions about?
No, I just, he went to the DC-8 transport.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that just seemed like such a long fuselage, and the center of gravity issues with the weight and balance on the airplane.
It really wasn't. It was easy to trim.
Yeah.
But it was.
You had a loadmaster on.
Yeah.
So you flew with Tigers then?
I'm sorry?
Who'd you fly with?
UPS.
UPS.
Yeah. When I went to work for UPS, we had 727. Well, actually, I went to work for a contractor that flew UPS's airplanes. Orion Air. There were 4 contractors: Evergreen, Orion Air, Ryanair, and one more. I can't remember. But
I had a friend named Chuck Young flew UPS. He'd be about the same. Oh, he'd be about the same age, a little older. Chuck Young lived in Louisville.
I lived in Louisville. That name's kind of familiar. Have you ever seen a Puff the Magic Dragon gunship, C-130?
Yeah.
With the guns on the side.
We used to, the sun to go down. Everybody get about half in the tank, and we had a movie theater, theater where they had the screen down here and a sloped hill. So you take your booze, sit up there, watch the movie. It was always Jane Fonda. If the movie was bad, you could turn around and across, headed towards the rice paddies on the other side of the field. There were gunships working the area at night, and they'd roll up on the side. And they had 4 or 5 50 calibers and a couple of howitzers and all kinds of shit. And they'd fire this thing, and then the airplane would climb sideways.
Yeah.
Boom, 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 boom. And the tracers coming down. They said they could turn a rabbit loose within a 1 square mile area there, and not only kill it, but probably hit it twice. A rabbit.
Yeah, a friend of mine flew it, one of the. But it's like with all this stuff we had, how come we didn't win?
I have no idea. They had.
Well, in retrospect, I'm kind of glad. It's a big supporter of the U.S. now. So.
And in most cases, guys that I knew that went over there and got involved. What I call got involved. I mean, we worked our asses off. We just did it wrong. The Agent Orange thing was wrong. Most of my friends are like me, have Parkinson's, because of the Agent Orange exposure.
So are you getting a disability out of that now?
No.
Well, that's come on.
I applied, begged, went to the VA 4 times.
Really?
Oh yeah, turned down. And it's because I don't know any Marine that was even remotely in country anywhere that was approved.
Let's say that again.
It was approved. All of us were turned down.
Oh wow.
Turned down.
Yeah. It's not like they don't have the money.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how did your did you lose any guys? Any air crew while you were there?
We lost 2 airplanes, 4 guys. One of them is buried over in Cathedral City at the cemetery there, San Cordova. The other 3 are back east.